Hi there, I'm Kaplan instructor Stephanie, and I wanted to tell you a little bit more about our Kaplan SAT rapid reviews that we have coming up for this upcoming SAT test date. So each of these hour-and-a-half long sessions, we have one for verbal and one for math, are going to cover some of those strategies that are going to help you maximize your score on test day. So what do I mean when I say strategies? Let me give you a little bit of a sneak peek of what you might expect. So like I said, we have one of these, which is verbal. That's going to cover the reading comprehension test as well as writing and language. One of the number one questions that I often get is, do we read the questions first or do we read the passage first? And guess what? I have a definitive answer for you. You definitely always want to read the passage first. Now, a lot of students come to me in the questions first camp, and the logic behind that isn't bad. Right? The logic behind that goes, well, if I know what I'm being asked to look for, then I can look for that as I read the passage. And well, that sounds great if you had, say, one or two questions. But the thing is, you don't only have, a handful of questions per passage. You're going to have somewhere between 9 and 11. And there's just really no strategic way to go and memorize 9 to 11 question prompts and then go find all those in the passage, or to read those individually and skim through the passage 9 to 11 times. But what if I told you that without even seeing the questions, you could still know exactly what to look for in that passage reading it through the first time? That's true. And that's because these are standardized tests. And standardized tests have to be, well, standardized. So the same elements, the same types of questions are being asked in every passage every time, regardless of what the passage text actually states. So if you know what those elements are, you can read through the passage and pick up on those things, focus in on them, hone in on them the first time. We, in fact, call that active reading. So step one of the Kaplan method for reading comprehension is to actively read the passage. You can use a lot of these context clues to anticipate where the author is going and can focus in on those key elements so that when you get to the questions, you've already pre-thought of a lot of the answers without even knowing that those exact questions were going to be there. So some of those elements would be things like tonal clues, author opinion, of course, things like main idea, and elements of transition. And in our rapid review session, we will be looking through several passages doing this exact same thing. So you can really refine your ability to pick up on those certain keyword clues in the passage so that by the time you get to those questions, you can in fact predict the answer based on what you've read, and more importantly, move through those questions efficiently and of course, more accurately. That's of course the ultimate goal. Now in that verbal session, we'll also be looking at some writing and language practice as well, some of those conventions and question types that you will see, as well as doing some passage samples for that test too. Now, like I said, there's two. The other one is our math rapid review. Let's take a look at the Kaplan method for math. All right, now, of course, on the math test, you have a couple different sections. You have the no calculator as well as the calculator. And of course, there's going to be a lot of content that you do need to have readily accessible for this particular test. But you can also still be efficient by strategically approaching the question and thinking about how to set these questions up before just jumping in and doing a lot of math on autopilot. Now, let me give you an example here with this one that I have up on screen. Go ahead, read the question and think about what you're solving for and how you might approach this particular question. So this question is asking you for an expression, 12b minus 7c, and what that equals. Well, math on autopilot, you might say, okay, I'm going to solve for b, I'm going to multiply that by 12, I'm going to solve for c, I'm going to multiply that by 7, and then I'm going to subtract that quantity from my 12b quantity, and I'm going to get my answer. And if this was a systems of equation question, that approach might work. It still might be a little bit lengthier than a more strategic approach, but at least you would be able to use that approach here. But we don't have a system of equations here, right? For two variables, you'd need two equations in order to solve for each of those variables individually. But we don't have that. We just have the one equation, 4b minus 14 equals 7/3 c. So in fact, there is no way to solve for b or c individually in this question as it stands. What you're going to have to do is manipulate what you're given and put it in the format of what you want. Let me show you what I mean. Okay, so here's the expression that we have. 4b minus 14 equals 7/3c. Well, notice how I want my answer to be in, b minus c equals number format. Of course, we know this is going to equal a number because it's a grid in, so it has to be a positive number. Then we only have the 4 digits to work with there. So let's go ahead and move my c's over to the left, move my 14 over to the right. Of course, we're following those rules of algebra to do this. And now I have my b minus c equals number format. Except I don't want 4b, I want 12b. All right, well, this is not a big deal because you know that 4 is a factor of 12. So go ahead and multiply this entire equation by 3 and take a look at what you get. 12b minus 7c equals 42. That's exactly what you wanted. You wanted 12b minus 7c. You have now manipulated this expression and go ahead and grid that answer in 42. Of course, you're also going to see multiple choice questions, many more multiple choice questions on the math test. In fact, let's take a look at how you can still be strategic with those as well, and also review some of those important concepts that you want to have locked away before test day. This is a geometry question. Now, you don't get a ton of geometry questions on the test, but when you do a strategic approach and having a couple of these concepts, memorized, can really make you speed through these questions. So again, take a moment, read through it, and I want you to think about the approach that you would use. Well, we're looking for the value of AC. So if we take a look at the diagram here, you see that that is the hypotenuse of a right triangle. So you might be thinking, all right, maybe I can use some Pythagorean theorem. Okay. We also have some more information here. We see that AB equals BC. Well, equal sides means equal angles. And there's in fact only one isosceles right triangle out there, and that's your 45, 45, 90. So if you recognize this special right triangle, this question is a snap. You can bank some time on this question and apply that time to some of those other questions that are going to just naturally take longer, like some of those multi-part math questions that you can expect to see on test day. So let's go plug what we have. Well, if AB is 5 and they're equal, that means BC is also 5. But you don't even have to do this. You know that this is a 45, 45, 90. So if you have those ratios memorized, you know that the ratios of the side to hypotenuse of that triangle is going to be x to x to x root 2. Well, in this case, our sides are 5, and that means that hypotenuse is 5 root 2. You don't even have to do the Pythagorean theorem. You wouldn't even have to necessarily fill this into the diagram once you recognize that ratio relationship. Right. So it's a couple of those types of strategies and concepts that you can expect to review. And of course, a lot more in these upcoming sessions. So we've got some enrollment information if you want to sign up for those down below. Definitely take a look. This is also going to be a fantastic opportunity for you to chat with many additional SAT experts just to get some of your other test day questions out of the way, get any of those jitters, any of those lingering uncertainties you have. We'll have a lot of expertise both for myself and many of my colleagues there to help make sure all your questions are squared away before you take the test. We hope to see it in some of our upcoming rapid reviews, and good luck on test day.